need and want for friends kind of put me in situations where I didn't have true friends.
Okay.
It was a very intense, fun, and toxic relationship. And it impacted me in a lot of ways that I'm still healing from.
Okay.
But it brought to the light a lot of things that I could work on too. So I'm grateful for the experience that I had in that relationship. Sorry.
You okay?
Yeah, I need a second.
Okay.
Whew.
Hey, baby.
Hey, babies. Welcome back to another episode of Talk to Me, Kitty. I am your host, Kittie Rose. And today we have a beautiful guest. She is an advocate for mental stability. She goes by the name of Kay Foy, and she is the host of Stable Minds. Ladies and gentlemen, Kay Foy.
Hey.
Hey, sweetie.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Kitty.
How you feeling today, baby?
I'm feeling good. I'm very comfortable right now because I love the studio. It's so cute and
Thank
beautiful,
you.
and like it smells so good in here. So I'm very comfortable, and I'm happy to be here and be able to like
Good.
tell my story, and hopefully it helps somebody else.
Come
So, yeah.
on. I love that. So tell me what got you into helping people create mental stability or get to that place of mental stability.
So I've been on like a journey of
Mhm.
figuring out what tools can I put in my toolkit to maintain my mental health
Okay.
since 2020. And it started because I grew up the only child and I grew up with my mom, but my dad, he was like kind of in and out and
Mhm.
stuff. And it left a lot of trauma that I didn't really understand.
Okay.
And then when I went to college, I graduated from Tuskegee University.
Come on.
When I went to college, I realized my senior year, it was like something that wasn't right because I
Okay.
had everything going for myself. Like I had an internship with a full-time role guaranteed. I was on the board of trustees at my school, and I
Come on,
had friends
intelligence.
galore. I couldn't understand why was I sad and why did I feel so empty. But then once I graduated, my dad he died,
Okay.
and so then I moved because I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama. I
Mhm.
moved to New Jersey, miles away from my family, the day after his funeral. And so I had a lot of emotions from my childhood, emotions still from that were unanswered from college. Then my dad had died, and I made this big transition of a
Yeah.
move. And so I went to the doctor when I was in New Jersey, and you know how they do like the screenings? She asked me
Yeah.
a simple question, and I just started bawling, crying in the hospital. And I didn't understand what was going on. She's like, well, yeah, I would definitely say that you probably have like depression. You should go talk to a therapist. And so
Oh.
when I left New Jersey, because I was in a rotation program with my job,
Mhm.
I moved to Florida and it was 2020. And I was determined to be better and be different. So I immediately went on like Black Girls Do Therapy and found me a Black therapist
Come on.
and learned more about myself, learned more about my values, learned about some coping mechanisms. And then I started getting into like my physical health too.
Mhm.
I started practicing yoga. I got a personal trainer, started journaling, started getting closer with God.
Come on.
And so that's what the whole idea of getting grounded in my mental health, because I realized how important it was because
Right.
your mental health plays a part in your physical health as well.
Mhm.
And I was seeing that show up in ways making like headaches
Yep.
and just feeling tired and
Mhm.
sluggish and just not being my best self. And
So
I wanted to be better.
so tell me, okay, so let's travel through, let's go through the journey right
I know I
now.
dropped a lot.
No, that was beautiful. Don't you worry about
Okay.
that. No, that because I want to know what led you to this place. And that's important because our experiences always shape us. So I wanted to know that because I think what you're doing is beautiful. So tell me about bring me up from childhood. Let's walk through and because I hear you're kind of referencing some things in your childhood, but let's highlight those things because I want to know even because before and those are your formative years, childhood, then we're going into teen adolescence, adulthood, early adulthood,
Right.
and you're still being molded. So walk me through how it was in home. You said you come from a single parent household, right? Dad was kind of in and out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I grew up with my mom. She was a single parent, but she had a village. My mom couldn't have did it alone.
Mhm.
So I had all of my grandparents. I had my great parents, my great granddad. He's still in my life today. Um, so I grew up with my mom and she was wonderful. Like my mom, she had her own struggles, of course. And now that I'm an
Mhm.
adult, I understand her and her story.
Mhm.
So it helps me to have grace for my
Right.
experiences as a kid. Um, But she made sure, and one thing that I can really take away from my childhood, there were moments of struggle, but at the end of the day, one thing that's in my core values to always dream.
Mhm.
And my mom, she also, like, looking back, she implemented, like, mental health before it was, like, a thing.
Mhm.
My mom would let me take days off from school.
Come
Like,
on,
if I was
mama.
having
You
a
need those
moment of time.
mental health
Yeah,
days, right?
exactly. So my mom gave me mental health days before it was a thing.
love
And then
it.
you know how some Black parents are like, stay in the child's place, don't be talking back and stuff. My
Mhm.
mom was the opposite. That said,
Mhm.
if she would let me speak my piece, because when I was a teenager, like, me and my mom went back and forth.
Mhm.
But that in itself is kind of beautiful, because most parents would shut that down.
Right.
Like, who are you talking to?
Right.
And not saying she didn't have a rebuttal. She did, but I still had the freedom to speak my
Mhm.
mind. So that was a beautiful thing. I'm super grateful and thankful for that. But yeah, it was very difficult not having my dad, because, like, I did have the village, but not having my dad was still like an empty
Mhm.
space.
Mhm.
And, like, his mom and his sister, they were still in my life and, like, really providing as well. Like, I spent so much time with my grandma and my TT too,
Mhm.
but not having my dad did leave a blank space. And then when he would come, he was very rude, and left, like, scars
Mhm.
that I didn't realize were scars
Mhm.
until I got a little older. So that was, like, elementary and middle school, and then high school. And I feel like, because of my experience with my dad, I always felt like I was having something to prove. So
Right.
I've always been an overachiever.
Come on.
So after elementary and middle school, I went to high school, and I chose to go to this really advanced high school where
Mhm.
you're on a curriculum of, like, kids in Europe.
Yeah.
And I came from an elementary middle school that was below standard.
Mhm.
But my mom was heavily involved in the school, so I rose above the standards.
Right.
But the background that I received, the education I received at the time, didn't match what I was going into. So I
Mhm.
struggled. That was my first time experiencing failure. Like, I
Mhm.
graduated middle school at the top of my class, and when I got to high school, I made my first F.
Okay.
And so I was really depressed during that time, because that was my first time experiencing, like, anxiety, like, about tests and staying up late at night,
Mhm.
not getting proper sleep. And that's when mama really started implementing those mental health days. And so she allowed me to quit that school
Mhm.
because it just wasn't working out. I gave it my best shot for 2 years, and then I chose to go to a regular school, but I still did, like, AP
Right.
and, like, enrolled in, like, the
Mhm.
finance academy. And, like, during that time, I was able to realize, like, I'm really interested in financial health too, because as a kid, we didn't have a whole lot of
Yeah.
money, but my mama did the
Yeah.
best with what she got, and the
Yes.
family helped out too. But I realized in high school, there's so much I can do. Like, I was introduced to accounting, by my teacher, Mr. Johnson, and so, like, that made me just, like, completely interested in finance completely, because he was saying accounting was, like, the language of business.
Mhm.
So I was, "Okay, there's all this opportunity and money,
Mhm.
like, let me study accounting."
Mhm.
And so they gave me a goalpost, and so I chose accounting. I chose to go to Tuskegee. When I got to Tuskegee, it was full throttle. I had a goal, I had a mission. I am graduating with a job. I'm gonna get this degree. And I started a business while I was there too. Because
Good.
entrepreneurship has always just been a part of me and
Mhm.
ingrained in me. Because, like, as soon as I was of age to work, I went and got a job.
Right.
But I also did, like, hair and stuff too in high school. So
Okay.
when I got to college and I was going to an HBCU, I set up shop in my dorm
Mhm.
room. And by the time I graduated, I had started Hair by Kayla. It was a custom wig brand, and I sold extensions as well.
Mhm.
And I carried that on until 2020 when COVID happened, because
Yeah.
it was a lot of it was very difficult to receive the goods from, like,
Right.
China at the time, because
Because of
everything shut
COVID,
down.
everything was
Exactly.
shut down, little boy.
So I took a lot of time to reflect, and then I realized that I don't want to do this anymore. And it was really difficult for me to come to that conclusion, because I had done that since high school. But what I realized is that it wasn't really creating the units that was the most fun for me, because I did a really good job. Like, all the girls on
Mhm.
campus love my hair, and they still have those wigs today.
Mhm.
But what I missed was the interaction with people.
Gotcha.
And so it just didn't serve me anymore. And it took a lot of soul searching, journaling, and reading books to come to that conclusion, like, to give up on it. But I knew I still had, like, an entrepreneurship spirit. And so I finished Hair by Kayla, and I was working my full-time job, because when I graduated Tuskegee, I started working for a company, and I was in a rotation program. So every 6 months for 2 years, I would move geographically as well
Mhm.
as functionally throughout the company.
Okay.
And so I got all this experience in finance. And then I realized after 2 years I was working internal audit, I don't want to do finance anymore. I don't want to do this. Like, it's not serving me. I want to be with people. I want to help people. I want to do something that's focused on people. And so once that happened, I made the decision to find a way, make a way, and connect myself with people that could get me to where I wanted to be.
Right.
And so that's when I found my job in HR now.
Okay.
And I love it because now I am a university relations lead. So I get to connect students with jobs and tell my story about how I started as an intern. And now I'm doing this. And I got this huge skill set from the company that I can utilize in all these different ways. And like, you can do it too.
Okay. So let me ask you then, because I hear a couple of things that I noticed. You used to be a perfectionist?
And that's difficult because it's like, yes and no.
Okay.
I feel like I'm balanced in that way.
You
Because
balanced now, or were you always
balanced
balanced?
now. I wasn't always balanced. That's a good point. Yeah,
Okay.
I wasn't always
Because I'm like,
balanced.
you done therapy, so it's different now.
Yeah.
But then, so did mom like encourage you to excel in school and stuff like that?
She didn't really have to.
Okay.
Like,
that was just naturally you.
Yeah. That
Okay.
was just like in there. And my mom would say it all the time, like, you were such an easy kid and stuff. But it's like life kind of forced me to be easy and like care for myself in a way and like be my best.
Do you feel that in any sense, do you feel like your worth was attached to your achievements and how
For
you
sure.
could, when do you feel like you grew out of that? Because I'm hearing how it was like, even if you were a perfectionist, even going to a school where you couldn't excel like you usually do, and you're seeing other people can make you feel like you're a failure in a sense. And that can take a really hard tug at your esteem and your self-worth, especially when your self-worth is tied to those things, to your accolades, accomplishments, successes, and things like that. When you felt like you were failing in that school, what happened to you mentally? I heard you say your mom gave you mental health days, but if you can recall, what happened to you mentally? I heard the emotional side, or was it anxiety and things like that?
Yeah.
So mentally, what happened to you? And this can be shown like how you interact with people, the things that you tell yourself, your negative self-talk. What was that process like when you felt like you were failing in that moment?
When I felt like I was failing, because I was failing at school, I just felt like a complete failure. Like I felt like I couldn't do anything right. My hope for the future was kind of bleak because I put so much emphasis on education.
Okay.
Because like my mom didn't have to push me to be great at school, but she always did tell me like education is like your way out. So it caused me a lot of anxiety. I was always worried about what was next, worried about the future, worried about how I can get where I want to go. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I had a coping skill, and that was to write out my goals. I thought I was just trying to create a life, but I didn't realize that's a coping skill, like creating goals, because it makes the dreams, the goals, the anxiety decrease because there's a plan written out that I can see.
Yeah, it copes with that sense of failure. Yeah, that sense of failure or that sense of not succeeding.
It's like, I can do it. I can see it. Because once I can see something, I feel like I can do it. Like, nothing is going to stop me but me, unless God doesn't want me to have it.
So you pretty much would compensate. So that was compensatory, pretty much a compensatory action of yours. You felt like with how you felt about yourself, you can compensate by creating those goals, constantly doing things, constantly trying to find ways to be successful or just achieving at something. It could be the smallest thing. As long as you see that you're good at it, it compensates for those negative beliefs that you do have about yourself or those feelings that you have about yourself. So that's what you were using. Do you still do it now? Not as extreme. The silence was kind of telling.
I feel like I do, but I don't get anxiety behind it. I'm not afraid of failure now.
Good.
Like,
good.
Because you learn from failure, you know, like, so that's the mind switch that I have now. I'm not afraid of failing. I'll try anything once. I'm going to try to calculate it, you know, but I will try it. And if I fail, I failed. I learned something. And that's something my great granddaddy, he would tell me, like, you know, like 101, like you're going to learn stuff for life 102. So, yeah.
So how was your friendships in school and middle school, things like that you can remember? Middle school, high school, what type of friendships did you develop? Were you like a social person? Were you included, excluded?
I've always been a very social person, but and I'm also the only child.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been a social person because I always wanted to have friends.
Right.
So like in middle school, I had some true friends, but a lot of times I experienced hot and cold friendships
Mhm.
like as a kid. And so that really made me not trust
Mm-hmm.
people anymore. And so when I went to high school and being that I went from a primarily Black
Mm-hmm.
elementary middle school, I was with the same people from K through 8.
Okay.
To now a high school that's extremely diverse, more diverse than diverse in the fact that like it was maybe 10 Black students out of like 100. Like
Okay.
that's really small in comparison to where I came
Mhm.
from. And so I felt inadequate in that way because of where I came from, the background, as well as like how much these kids knew and how much like access to resources they had. So I was on the fence going to high school.
Right.
Plus I had the experience of like friendships being hot and cold in middle
Mhm.
school. So when I got to high school, I wasn't really interested and as open as I could have been. And then
Okay.
I was stressed as a high school those 2
Mhm.
years. But once I got out of the stressful environment, and I did make friends, but I also experienced the pattern of like hot and cold friendships still.
Mhm.
But once I got out of the stressful environment, then I was able to form more authentic, genuine friendships. And these are friends that I still have today.
Good.
So I've always been a social person, but I wasn't as vulnerable and open
Mhm.
at that time. And I feel like in order to make genuine friendships, you do have to be comfortable with opening up and be inquisitive about other people and then have discernment too,
Right.
because people will show you their one way
Mhm.
and it'd be a completely different thing if you're not like really paying attention, especially if you like thirsty for friendship and thirsty for connection.
Do you feel like, because I'm hearing the hot and cold nature of your friendships, and I hear where there was a moment of time where you wanted that acceptance, you wanted to fit in almost in a sense, and then your dad was hot and cold as well, so you were already kind of used to that rejection and that lack of acceptance from a father figure. Do you feel like if you had your father, who, if he was more present, that do you feel like you probably would have did the same things or probably looked for that acceptance in school? Because I know peer settings are different.
Yeah.
Most times we do want to form that social group, but I know that sometimes a lack of a caregiver or a parent can intensify the needs that we have. Do you feel like it would have been different if dad was present?
I do feel like it would have been different. Would it have been different in a better way? I don't know. It would have been different. I don't know exactly how it'd be different, but it would be different because that's just a completely different experience. So I don't know. That's a good question. I do feel like it would have been different if he was there. Um, but I don't know if it would have shown up differently in my friendships because those were like with women, and I kind of base the way I have friendships off of the friendships that I've seen in my life too. But it's also interesting because I'm extremely opposite of my family. Like I give people so many chances, and my family will give people chances too. But my gaga, that's what I call my grandma, my mama. They both will. You're done, and I'm like, you're not done yet. Like I can empathize. Like no, So would it have been different? Potentially. I don't know. I've never sat and like wondered how having him in my life would have impacted friendships. In dating, I have wondered that. I wondered like would have been different.
I know that sometimes, uh, because even if it's female friendships, the belief system that you develop over time from that lack of consistency from your parents can always influence your attitude even towards friendships and all themes of your life, towards friendships, intimate relationships, professional business relationships, because of the way you see yourself. When you were younger, dad's lack of presence made you question yourself. The idea, the perception that you had of yourself was altered because of that lack of presence. I would say mom did a great job by allowing you to, even what she did was allow you to set boundaries, even as a child. You were able to be vocal. Most children cannot do that.
Yeah.
You were able to say, hey, I don't really like that. And even if you got the pushback, she still allowed you to have a voice. So mom did, from what I hear, I don't know you and her relationship, but that's an incredible piece of parenting for sure,
I would
because
agree.
yeah, it works really well with you because you don't have a problem with saying, well, this is what I want to do. You don't have a problem with pursuing and things like that. She did a good job. That lack thereof definitely affected your self-worth in some type of sense. I'm sure you developed some type of feeling about yourself, and I'm sure you had questions as a child. It always shows up in the relationships after. It always shows up, even if you're not thinking that it does, subconsciously it's there. You're going to make certain attempts to fill those voids that are there. It probably did. It probably showed up a little bit.
It definitely
Probably did showed up a little bit. I do want to know how it showed up in your relationships, though.
It showed up in my relationships by me sticking around
Mhm.
for things that didn't serve me, and like taking put downs, and like accepting people being hot and cold with me too,
Yep.
and not really matching
Mhm.
what I bring to like the earth
Yeah.
and the experience that we have here on this earth. And not like just in a material sense, but also like I come from a very loving and nurturing family.
Mhm.
So like you would expect somebody that comes from that type of background to go out and search and find someone that has a similar background.
Right.
But I found myself in relationships where people are really closed off.
Mhm.
And instead of me just saying, okay, we don't really mesh well here, I try to help you be that way.
Mhm.
It's like, you can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped.
Mhm.
And I feel like I would take on people who are like that because I see the good in them.
Right.
And I feel like in a way I was trying to prove myself in reenacting the relationship
Mhm.
that I did have with my dad. I definitely see the similarities there.
Did the people Okay, so tell me about your most impactful romantic relationship, the one that you know this either affected you in a good way or a bad way. Healthy, I don't even want to say healthy, positive or negative way. Tell me about that relationship.
That relationship would be my last relationship.
Mhm.
It was a very intense, fun, and toxic relationship.
Okay.
And it impacted me in a lot of ways that I'm still healing from.
Okay.
But it brought to the light a lot of things that I could work on too. So I'm grateful for the experience that I had in that relationship. Sorry.
You okay?
Yeah, I need a second.
Okay.
Whew. Okay. So yeah, in that relationship, I felt like I was head over heels in love.
Mhm.
Because it was so much fun. Like it started out really cool. I thought we were like completely meshed well in the fact that we both were ambitious. We both had families that I thought were like loving. We both loved to travel, both like educated from like HBCUs. Cause I don't know, that just does something for me when you like are for your
I
people
know.
in that way, you know? So like we were both in that way, but like as I got to know him more, and I was interested by him, but as I got to know him more, I noticed that he was selfish.
Mm.
I noticed that he was very condescending, manipulating, and would put me down
Yes.
and would
Mhm.
just kill my self-esteem. And I came to that relationship like better than ever because I had been in therapy and I was really working on myself. And like
Yeah.
my self-esteem and my image of myself
Was high.
was so
It was
high. It was the
healthy. It was
highest it had
right.
ever been.
Right.
And so I went into that relationship at my best, the best that I had seen yet.
Do you feel like that right there was too much for him, seeing you that high up? Because if I'm hearing that he's condescending,
Yeah, it
and
was, but it's like it didn't start out that way.
how did it start out?
It
Did he
started out
seem like he
amazing.
really liked that about you, the confidence and things like that about you? Was he doing pretty well in his own life at the beginning?
He was.
Hmm.
And he was still doing like fairly well for himself too. And that was the most, I want to say mature, but that's not really the word that I want to use because there was some very immature moments in there. But that was the longest relationship that I went the furthest in.
Right.
Like we had moved in together and stuff, met each other's families, had went on all these vacations and stuff together. And it was beautiful.
Right.
But I know now, like in retrospect, that was just some things that he needed to work on with himself and like accepting himself as who he is and like things that have happened to him. And there were things that I needed to work on. And I got to the point where I was so invested in the relationship
Right.
that I was willing to accept it all basically because I loved him. And I saw the good in him and I was holding on to the moments that we previously had. And I was kind of letting the past overcompensate for what was presently going on because he was just very mean to me.
When did that start to change? You said at the beginning it was good. So when did you start to see the changes?
It started to change because he moved around. And this was the first time I like dated someone that like had a kid and stuff too. So that was also something for me to wrap my head around because I've never been with someone where you had to like there's another party in the relationship.
Right.
you know? So it changed when he had to move to be a little closer to his family because
Okay.
he had got a new job. And so I moved too. And just being in that new city was just completely different because I didn't have anyone in the city.
Mhm.
Like I didn't have any friends there that I knew, but I made friends because I'm always like find a community
Right.
for myself because that's important to me. So that's where it changed. And I just noticed things like he was just becoming way like just mean to me. It wasn't enough with what I would do. I was always being compared to like
Mm.
exes and stuff. And now
Mm.
that I've learned things, like there's a word for everything.
Mhm.
And being in therapy has like taught me that.
There's
It
a
is
word
a word for everything has a
for
word. Like
There's a
so I
term
learned
for
about like
everything.
triangulation. That was him putting like other women in the
Yes.
relationship and comparing me and
Yes.
stuff. And
Uh-huh.
that played a part on my self-esteem because why is she so much greater? Like if you're
Mhm.
gonna bring an ex in here in comparisons, I should be being better than that ex.
Yeah,
Because
and
why?
he'll people who triangulate, they use those women on purpose.
Mhm.
They use them on purpose.
Yes, and it made me like feel so small
Mhm.
and like
You tried to prove yourself, tried to prove your worth. That's the
yes.
purpose of triangulation. There's usually the person who triangulates, whether they're narcissistic, whether they're just gaslighters or they have any other mental disorders or anything like that, they'll bring in another person, enough comparison to break down your self-worth because then you'll
Mhm.
cling on to them and you'll start to need them to boost yourself up,
Right.
proving that I'm good enough, I'm better than this person. They don't even have to actually be like interactive, like sexually interactive with women or anything like that. It can just simply be just them bringing in women for conversation and stuff, and you seeing the attention starts to go towards that person
Mhm.
or the ongoing belittling you, like you said, condescending comparisons and stuff like that. I can only imagine.
Yeah, it was very intense. Like, and what was killing me, like I had got a new therapist too.
Mhm.
And I was like, I want to get out this relationship.
Yes.
Like, can you
Help
please
me get
help
out.
me? Because why can't I leave? Like, I know it's bad. I had a journal because, like, my first therapist, she would always tell me, collect your data.
Yeah.
Collect your data. Because then you'll know, like, you have this data set of all the
Mhm.
things that you feel, the events that have happened.
Mhm.
You will know, am I making myself feel this way? Or is this really how it is?
Yes. Yes.
I had the data.
Yeah.
I had the data from beginning to end. I saw the beautiful parts of the relationship from my journal. I saw the ugly parts. I saw the hideous parts. I saw the fun parts, but I still couldn't leave because I was so invested. I couldn't leave so much so that I knew we shouldn't have been living together. And I went ahead and moved in
Was
together.
it all investment or was it because at that point your self-worth was relying on him?
It was relying on him too. I feel like it was a mix of the two. And then I also, it was those two things, my self-worth and the investment, and then also me just wanting to be chosen.
Okay.
And that was something that was a major key that I learned about myself from that relationship.
I definitely feel like that was linked to that.
Yeah. And
I
exactly.
definitely feel like that
And I
was.
know now that until I figure that out,
Mhm.
nothing else will like work. I will find myself in
Right.
similar situations. It may not be as bad as that one.
Right.
I might not have somebody calling me out my name,
Mhm.
but they won't be treating me how I know I should be treated. They're not gonna treat me how I done seen relationships work,
Mhm.
because I'm willing to accept less. So learned that, and I'm happy to have that information now because now I can move forward.
Right.
But yeah, that relationship was just very, very tumultuous, and it became physically abusive. And like I've learned about the forms of abuse now. And I feel like I experienced a good bit of them. Like I experienced emotional abuse. And I remember I called it out. It was like, whatever. Like,
Mhm.
um, I experienced physical abuse, emotional abuse, a little bit of financial abuse as well, because it started out this grand relationship where it was taking me out on all these dates and stuff. Like I know times get tough. And like I would help out too. Like I would pay for dates. But it
Mhm.
became a point where like I feel like you were taking advantage of me.
Right.
Because he had a kid. I'm paying for dates that like this is family time.
Mhm.
Like and you choosing
Mm.
expensive family time moments on my dime. And like
Mm.
I'm accepting you and your kid because like I love your kid and I love you. So like what's mine could be yours, not completely because you're not my husband, but like I'm not a selfish person. Like even though I'm the only child, I'm not selfish.
Let me ask you, because he was in a relationship before you with his child's mom?
Like years prior.
So this child was a little bit older.
Mhm.
Okay. Did he ever talk about why that relationship didn't work out or why any of his relationships didn't work out?
Yes, and in retrospect, it was always the woman's fault. And
He
now I
played victim.
know
I was waiting for you to say that.
and now I know
Okay.
you have to pay attention because what
Yes.
somebody says, history repeats itself. If
It does.
every single person, if the problem is every single person,
You're more
in
than
their
likely the
relationships,
problem is you. More than likely.
exactly. Because why is it the same
That's
story?
the biggest red flag.
The
It's
biggest.
when it's always somebody
Because
else.
I will be honest, I could have avoided a lot of the trauma that I had
Mhm.
had I just sat down, listened, and took heed to what he was telling me.
Yeah.
Because he told me what he was going to do to me
How?
without telling me. Like,
How?
he told me in his last relationship that, like, the girl, they got into a physical altercation, but she started it.
Okay.
Okay. Like, he was like, she pushed me, I pushed her back.
Okay.
Okay. You telling me that. I'm thinking you don't hit women. She hit you. You was just defending yourself.
Mhm.
No, Caleb. No, he abuses women. You know,
Yes.
like he will hit you too. Calling his ex-girlfriends out their name and like
That
cheating
right
on them
there.
and stuff. Like,
Mm.
if you've done it once, and I won't say that people can't redeem themselves from like cheating and stuff like that, but he told me everything to expect.
So how can you cheat on somebody and then blame them? Yeah, I cheated, but they did this. This is no, you can't justify that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, he told you.
He did, and I
He
didn't listen.
definitely did.
But now I listen.
Yeah, I know.
I know how to sit down and pay attention now.
So, okay, so I'm assuming that he became physical with you as well.
Yeah, and it was like only one occasion where he became physical with me, but there were moments like leading up to it that I would know he could become physically abusive. Like one time we had like this heated argument, and that was a telltale sign too,
Yeah.
because like I've had other relationships.
Mhm.
This was the most serious relationship I've had,
Mhm.
but I've had other adult relationships. And when we would argue, we would never like yell at each other.
Yeah.
Like it was about finding a solution and not like you're wrong, I'm right. Like, cause no, like that doesn't help us move forward. But with him, he would yell. And I remember the first time he yelled, I started crying. It's like, what the F you crying for? And I'm like, you're yelling at me. Like, I'm not used to yelling at somebody that I'm choosing to love. Cause we don't have to be here, you know?
That your mom didn't yell at you, I'm assuming, like not like just yelling at you
yelled,
like that.
but not like
she yelled.
Yeah, she yelled, but not just like
not in a means to break your character.
Yeah, exactly.
So you weren't used to that type of yelling.
Yeah, it's like you're starting here.
Yeah.
Like, why are you starting here?
Yeah.
So it started like that, like raising the voice, calling me out my name. And then like I remember one time we were like driving, he got upset with me and he started just driving real crazy. So like things like those are signs.
That sounds like one of my exes.
Yeah,
right?
like those are signs that people don't know to truly pay attention to. Like that,
because it shows they can't regulate their anger. It shows how dysregulated they become.
Eventually it will pop.
It will.
And the bubble popped.
Yeah.
And that was a very like heartbreaking moment for me. And it's something that I'm still healing from and accepting that experience, because like today I took a self-defense class and like when we were in the class, the instructor, he was like giving us all these tips and stuff and then like mentioning like little things, and I thought that I was over that like for the most part, but I'm in this self-defense class like holding back tears because like I'm triggered, you know. And so
it's good that you were triggered because now you can identify what else you need to work on.
True.
That's good that you were triggered.
True. Because I thought I had moved past that, but it definitely triggered me. But I want to take that pain and turn it into purpose. It's like, that's one reason why I'm here today too. It's like, so that women know these are some signs, and men, like whoever, because you can be in a same sex relationship or anything. Like men can be abused too. I want people to know.
Yeah.
To watch out for these signs, and you don't have to take abuse. And like, if you are finding yourself in a situation where you're constantly questioning, should I be with this person? After you've taken your date, if you still can't leave, you need to start asking yourself, why am I here? Like, what is it that I'm accepting and what does that say about me?
Yep.
Because then that'll help you probably figure it out a little bit better, a little bit more. Because I finally did decide to drop the relationship after it got to a point. I'm like, Kayla, you do not deserve this. You don't talk to yourself like this.
But the good thing about it is you also had help. You had somebody who can tell you, hey, this is how you're going to see it. When people won't go to therapy or they won't go for help, they won't see it. That blinder, those rose-colored glasses will still be on. But you had someone that can tell you, look, here, I need you to rationalize this. Don't rationalize the behavior. Let's rationalize everything else. We can't justify the behavior. You can't make excuses for what he's doing. How is this impacting you? How is it affecting you?
Mm-hmm.
Are you the one causing these problems? Is he having these blow-ups because of him or you? And those things like that, like it helps you look and say, okay, I can put this responsibility on me, but I can also put this responsibility on you. I didn't deserve for you to belittle me or call me out of my name. What triggered you to do that? Was it so bad that you had to call me out of my name? And you realize this person's constantly attacking your character. And every time they attack your character and you try hard to get them to see you in a more positive light, or you fight for their acceptance, each time you're giving them more and more power, and they know they have your self-worth. It's right there in their hand, and they just can play you like a little puppet. I can do everything. Plus, you went through triangulation as well. Was he actually cheating with those women, like physical
I never
cheating?
had like proof or anything, but I felt it.
Right,
Like,
right.
you know.
We know it's women.
Yeah.
We know.
Yeah, like I felt it. And like I will say too, like being in that situation and like being called out my name and stuff, it forced me outside of who I've known myself to be.
Right.
And so I started behaving in ways that I'm not used to. Like you yelling at me, I'm yelling back now because you're not gonna keep yelling at me, bro.
Yep.
You calling me out my name, now you will be. Like,
Yep.
you know, and that's not who I want to be.
Mhm.
And that's not who I've been.
You were trying to regain a sense of power and control.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so like you got to get out because you'll become somebody different. Now you got to work to be back to who, or not even be back because you can't go back.
Yeah.
You can only move forward to be better. Now you got to do a little extra work to be the person that you want to be.
Mhm.
Now with just new information and experiences from life.
Yep.
So that was an experience that I had.
And it sucks when you're trying to hurt the person the way that they hurt you. It sucks when you get to the point to where this is not me. I'm not a person who likes to make people feel the way they make me feel. But when you have to, when you absolutely have to, that's when you really got to look at yourself and say, is this really worth me staying here?
Yeah.
I am a monster just like you now. This is not even my character.
And that calls shame. That calls
Yes.
shame. That calls me to just feel like I didn't know myself. My self-esteem was low
Mhm.
again. I didn't trust myself anymore.
Mhm. Well, you
So
can't
many
trust your
things.
judgment when your worth is low. And that's the sad thing about it. He was, I don't want to say he was tactful, but it seems like he was. And I don't know if he knew that he was
I
tactful.
would call it out. And he's like, I'm not a you think I'm a master. I'm not a master manipulator. I'm like, it feels that way.
Yeah, you are. You may not want to agree,
and then
but
I
you
learned
are.
about like the hot term, like narcissist. I'm like,
narcissism was going around.
Yes, I'm like, you're a narcissist. He's like, you're a narcissist. And I'm like, am I? Started Googling, like, am I a narcissist? Like, maybe. I
The
talk about
gaslighting
yes,
and
the
deflecting.
gaslighting was deep. It was real. It was treacherous. Like,
and he deflected. If you throw a term at him, he throws it back, and now you take the light off of him, and now it's like, okay, let me check this. And it kind of frees them of owning up to what it is that they've done. And it makes you look at yourself. And then what happens, what they do that because they know you'll justify their behaviors and you'll excuse their behaviors.
for sure.
If I make you look at yourself, even though I know for a fact I did something wrong, let me highlight something you've done wrong to offend me. Because now you're looking at yourself. And now, because you're looking at yourself, now you can humanize me and say, you know what? Okay, I did that too, so I understand. So I'm going to excuse this behavior. But they keep doing it. And the more you excuse it, the worse it gets. Because at this point, they know you're not going to leave. Yeah.
Right.
This is easy. I still have my comfort where I'm at. I can get her to do whatever it is that I want. I don't have to change anything. And then I can do whatever I want because she's going to keep on excusing my behaviors.
Mhm.
He knew he had you at that point. When you left, considering the nature of your relationship, were you scared to leave?
No, because it had got so heated that I had no choice but to leave.
Okay.
So I wasn't scared. I was happy as hell to leave. So happy. And like, this is how I knew it was time for me to leave and God wanted me to leave. Because as soon as I left that house and left that area and left that relationship, my life got so much better because I hated my job. Well, I didn't hate, like, I hated the work I was doing. Loved the people I was working with, loved the company. Just hated the work that I was doing because it just didn't fit who I am as a person.
Right.
And so as soon as I left, I got the call. I got the job that I wanted.
Mhm.
I'm moving to Texas. Like, I'm into real estate, and I had been trying to buy a house in Florida because I was living in Florida for the longest, and it just was not working out for whatever reason.
Right.
I moved to Texas. I can buy a house. It's like, you know,
What's the every time someone says something about Texas, the first thing is I can buy a house. It's like, that's what y'all think we only good for houses around here?
It's fertile ground.
Yeah, yeah.
Texas is fertile. I love it here.
It is. I can't knock it. And when people come, I'm like, okay, y'all, look, it's a lot of y'all coming now. We know. We got a lot of land.
Yeah.
We got a lot of space, a lot of land.
And it's supporting like a lot of things here. And like Black people seem to be doing well.
We are doing well out here.
I love that.
That's why we hear different states. We like, oh, you know, Texas, we're pretty good out here. I don't know about y'all, but we okay.
Right. Yeah.
And it's more opportunities in Texas. A lot of people that I know move because of the opportunities that Texas presents.
And the no state income tax, that's the sell it up. Like, why wouldn't I want to live here? I can keep more of my money.
Yeah.
So yeah, like things just turned around for the greater good. And like I was very hesitant about moving here because like after that relationship, I went back home to Birmingham because I needed a break. I needed to be around the people who remind me of who I am at the core, you know?
You wanted to get your identity back.
Yes.
And those people were the ones who influenced your identity when you were younger. That home, that's what home is.
Yes. And I love that I can always go back home. And I will not sit up here and lie and act like it was easy going back home.
Of course.
So like,
we all are prideful sometimes.
Yeah. Look. And it was just like difficult too, because it's like, yes, I grew up here. So it's like, I'm trying not to revert.
Right.
Like to child Caleb. You know what I mean? Like letting my Gaga like take care of me. Because my Gaga was treating me so well.
Wait, what's your Gaga?
That's my grandma. That's my mom's mom. So like that's why I was living when I went back home. Yeah, I call her Gaga.
That is the cutest thing. I've never heard that.
Yeah, that's my Gaga. And like she called me apple of her eye. She like one of the loves of my life. Like that's my girl. Aww. And so
my grandkids better speak that same way about me.
I'm sure they will.
My name is gonna be Nanny Ma.
Nanny Ma?
Yeah.
I love that.
I always say that's gonna be Nanny Ma.
That's super cute.
Don't be taking my stuff, y'all. Whoever watching, that's my name. Okay.
They're gonna love having like brunch and stuff at Nanny Ma's with the cousins.
Yes. And that's what I want. I'm so ready for that. No, I'm not.
You got some time. Before that happens.
I had to correct that because I don't need to speak that into existence. Lord, we'll talk about
listens. He listens.
Lord, we're gonna have that conversation later. I'm not quite ready. in regards to and I'm just gonna highlight that relationship just one more time and then we'll move past that because I feel like what your transparency was absolutely beautiful when it came to that and you weren't afraid. Many people when I talk, because I work with a lot of women, when I talk to women, I always tell them to measure out life satisfactory within a relationship. Most times they're not satisfied. Most times they're literally just settling. The quality of the relationship is low. Your satisfactory levels, you're not pursuing your goals. You're not doing what you usually do. You're not hanging out with friends. You're not doing things for yourself. Your self-care routine has changed. You're not going out to the gym. All of that is altered. If all of that is altered with the person that you're in a relationship with, and you know that a lot of this is because maybe you've had to start chasing them more, or maybe you're arguing more. Maybe your self-esteem is critical at this point. That right there is an indicator that it's time for you to start working your way outside of that relationship. You had therapy. It got big. It got explosive. Did he ever try to contact you again? Really?
Yeah. No.
Oh, wow.
No contact. And
did you block him or stuff, or did he really not try to contact you?
I did block him. But I had unblocked him because I was looking for an apology. That's like the early phase. But I don't need that anymore because like only you can give yourself closure. That's something you got to take up with yourself and God.
Of course.
So that's not really something I'm looking for. But he hasn't tried to contact me. And like, that's good because I'm good. We're good. Like, I don't hold any like ill feelings about that situation anymore. I'm just grateful that I was able to get out of that situation because a lot of people don't make it out
Did it
alive.
bother you at first that he didn't try to reach out?
Yes, it bothered me because why wouldn't you want to like apologize or say anything and stuff? And like even when I broke up with him, like I was looking for him to like be begging me back, and he didn't. That did bother my self-esteem a little bit.
So he just accepted it for what it was. Do you think he wanted you to crawl back?
No, I think he was just good. It was good because I had nothing else to offer him or to give him. Because like he told me that like he thought I had more than what I had, for whatever that may mean.
More than what you had? Oh, so he was a user?
Yeah, very much so. But
it made sense about the dinners and stuff and all that. Kind of makes sense now.
Yeah.
So he knew that he could benefit off of you some type of way. Do you think that you being in a relationship with him, well, in the beginning, do you feel like you helped build anything about him?
No, I feel like he was gonna be who he was gonna be, like on his own. I feel like I probably helped him become a little bit more like emotionally aware of some things, because I did notice some changes in like the way he communicated. Like he would be really great. He wasn't just all bad, because I wouldn't stick around for just
of course
terrible. You
well,
know?
there's always goods.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that we focus on the goods more than the bads.
And that makes it convoluted. You don't know what to trust, and that's when you lose the gut feeling that you can trust. So I feel like he would be who he is, because I met him with him on his journey to be better, like financially and career-wise stuff. And like he wasn't broke or nothing like that.
Yeah.
But he was just missing some like core fundamental things emotionally, and like just mental health, mental wellness. And like when I would try to speak up about those things, I would be met with like pushback. And like I learned about like attachment styles and stuff too.
Come on.
And I feel like he was a bit of an avoidant. So like whenever things would get intense or like get heavy, it's like, you don't really want me to know you, and I'm like craving, dying to know you, because why do you act like this?
Makes sense when you said selfish, because avoidants are known to appear to be self-centered, selfish, and self-absorbed.
Yeah, and then I formed like an anxious attachment style in that relationship. And it makes sense, like with my background and stuff. And like anxious and avoidant attachment styles, they just,
that's the normal dynamics.
Yeah, but they
go against each other. They're polarized.
Like you pick each other though. That's
it's
the
like
crazy part.
The anxious one pursues, and then that avoidance, like, I can't take all of that. And then the anxious one, well, I can't take you withdrawing away from me, because now it makes me want to pursue more.
And then when the anxious person finally decides that, okay, I'm gonna accept this, now the avoidant wants you back.
Yeah, then the avoidance starts working, because now they feel out of control.
So I feel like he would have been his person, but like that did bother me at first, but it doesn't bother me anymore, because it's for the greater good.
Yes.
For all parties involved. And I still like wish him well and stuff, like even though I had that experience, because it takes more energy holding on to those feelings. And that doesn't mean that I'm excusing what happened to me, because I completely honor what happened to me. Like it happened, but I can't stay there.
Let me ask you a question. And it was two things that I noticed. Here, when you choked up, you were about to cry, you stopped yourself. And you said in your self-defense class, you were about to cry and you stopped yourself. Is that something you do now?
No, I cry at home.
Okay.
But like I cry like my friends and stuff.
Okay.
Like I just did my makeup. I'm not trying to be crying on camera. Like I was in the self-defense class. I ain't trying to have everybody ask me, what's wrong with you? You know,
okay,
like I
just wanted to make
sure
that this is not something, this is not a way.
I feel the feels.
There we go. Okay.
Awesome. I feel them. I just don't stay there. I feel them, but I don't stay there. Like even at my house, like I have a whole room dedicated to like prayer and like yoga and mindfulness. So like I feel my feels. Whenever I feel away, let me go to that room.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't actually stopping that from taking place now because of what you've gone through.
No, I feel it. If anything, I feel it like even more. Like I can be out with my friends like, I'm sorry, I gotta cry. Excuse me, I'm going to the bathroom real quick. Because it's better out than in.
Why you apologize whenever you're about to cry? You said that even here. You're like, I'm sorry. What you apologizing for that for?
I guess because people get uncomfortable.
You can't control that.
I know.
But you apologize. I feel it, because I feel like that anxious attachment is still kind of showing up a little bit. Because anxious, preoccupied people apologize often. You didn't offend nobody. Your tears shouldn't offend anybody. If they make them uncomfortable, make them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm not apologizing. I'm just going to cry. You just going to have to sit right there and be uncomfortable. But I'm going to cry. And then if you just uncomfortable, I mean, go for a walk. I can't do nothing about that, but I'm going to cry.
No, I feel that.
Don't apologize for that. You ain't offending nobody. If you're not offending nobody, I don't think it's actually worth an apology with that. That's you. That's who you are to the core. That's you being who you are authentically, and people should receive that and learn how to respect it. For sure.
I'm gonna
Outside
take
of
that nugget home. So
the
thank you.
outside of self-defense triggering you, have you identified anything else that triggers you, like maybe seasons, time of year, smells, scents, sounds, places,
Mm,
people, situations?
People that would have triggered me, I removed from my life. So triggering from that situation, no, just that, and like pictures would trigger me like from the time. So like I had to remove those photos from like my phone because I didn't want to have those emotions and stuff. And it really sucks because like I said, I went on like vacations and stuff, but I just don't need that energy around me. Like, cause I don't want to find myself tormenting myself by going back to look at those things and like trying to feel some closeness to that part of my life anymore, you know? So I would say that's all that I've identified now. But like I'm sure there'll be some like probably 5 years from now, maybe I'll be somewhere and like something triggers me. Like somebody say something or do something like, ooh, you're making me feel something I felt before.
You know, and I'm gonna speak about this brief, okay? There was a guy that I dated before. He was extremely verbally, mentally, and emotionally abusive. And I do mean extremely. Never physical, but I do believe if I stayed with him long enough, he would have probably become physical because he couldn't regulate himself. His anxiety and anger was so bad. But I remember for the longest, he used to withdraw his affection from me. And he used to tell me, it was one time where he told me specifically, I couldn't say I missed him. I couldn't say I loved him because if I said any of those things to him, he was not going to speak to me. And he was serious about that. And I was at a low point when he said that. It was like, you know, I'm trying to build something with you. Why would you say that? And I realized that all the work that I had done, I was falling back into that same space of trying to prove myself to him. And for the longest, I was triggered for a while. Whenever I felt like, or if I was dating someone and I wanted to say, I miss you, his voice was always in the back of my head. And all the work I had done, it seemed like it was just thrown out the window. Had to do therapy all over again because it's like, this should not be affecting me the way that it is. And I had to get that out of my mind that it's okay. But he, similar to yours, that self-worth was right there. Out of all the work that you had done before, you were high, confidence was high, and he did me the same way as yours did you. The constant breakdowns, name calling, picking at you, being patronizing, condescending, it was the same thing.
It's like, why? Why not just choose somebody that doesn't intimidate you then?
Oh, he used to say that too. You're not even my type. Well, why are you with me? Right. You pursued me.
I didn't come after you. Minding my Black-owned business.
Yes, yes. So whenever I hear stories like this, I love the fact that collectively as women, especially nowadays, there's so many resources. Like TikTok is doing a number, YouTube Shorts, where women are seeing that it's not just me. There are other people going through this, men as well, who are going through that. It's not just me. Like somebody else is going through this. I realize this is a human experience. If they were capable of getting out of it, I'm capable of getting out of it too. That's why I love when people share testimonies like you did today, because I guarantee there's going to be somebody watching who's like, I can get out of this. And you gave them some tools to use as well. I think when you talked about with the practice that your therapist told you, that was good. Somebody can use that and say, okay. And now they can make sense of it as well and saying that they're not alone. So I really do appreciate that.
Yes. And then I got to say this part.
Go ahead.
With the part of like collecting your data, if you're not a person that like likes to write in a journal, another part that I like, another form of journaling that I like to do is record videos only for myself.
Yeah.
So I can go back and see them because sometimes it's hard to put pen to paper.
It is. It can
be. Because that's there. Like the video's there too, but like it's different when it's in your journal because you have to go find a video unless you put in like its own separate album. But if it's in the journal, I'm going to flip the page and see that is a part of the story that is there. Good. You know?
That's good.
So that's an option. And also like audio recording is also an option to like collect your data. You don't have to like just put pen to paper. But it is good to document that. And even if it isn't like negative, you shouldn't just document the negative stuff. Of course. Document everything. And I just feel like everybody should document their life too, because That's how we know about like the
The
greats
growth,
and
the
stuff.
goods.
Like all the historic people had journals. Like we got to get
They
back to the journals.
They did have journals.
Yes, like that's how we knew people and like what they
Yeah.
went through in life and their experiences and how they were thinking, how they built their lives and stuff. Like they had journals documenting stuff. We got to get back to journals.
That's a good point right there. That's
Yeah.
a good point.
Go get a journal.
Are you proud of the growth that you've made?
So
Good.
proud. So
Good.
proud. Because it took work. Like after that relationship, I moved back home to Birmingham, Alabama. I
Mhm.
was there for like 6 months. And shout out to my job. I was able to take 2 months off
Mm.
and get my mind right. I was in therapy weekly. I was doing yoga, Pilates, going hiking outside with my
I
dog.
love
My gaga was
that.
cooking me food.
Ooh,
I
I
was
love that.
sleeping. I was hanging out with cousins, my baby cousins, my auntie, like granddad, like everybody, like
I
my
love that.
friends, just really getting loved
Yeah.
and just charging my battery up. And then once those 2 months was over, I was able to hop back in renewed and refreshed because had I not taken that time and I was just acting like I was okay after what I experienced, I would have been showing up to work terrible. That would have reflected on my performance. I could have potentially lost my job or something. Do you really want to deal with a lost job, heartbreak, and trauma? Like that's too much. Let's pick a focus, you know? So I was so grateful to take that time off. And I would advocate for anybody, like, take the time away from work. Like, work will be there. If you have a corporate job, like that job will be there. They have these resources and tools. Utilize them.
Utilize them.
Utilize it.
Exactly. Some people be afraid to.
Why are you scared?
Don't give me no time because I'm using all of it.
Exactly.
I'm not giving you a reason why. I'm using all of it.
Exactly.
That's what it's there for. That's what you work for. You put in all your hard-earned time, your hard hours and everything else. You should be able to use whatever time and
Exactly.
resources are there.
Because the happier you are, the better you can perform, the better they'll appreciate the work.
There you go.
Utilize your resources, whatever they may be.
I love that. I'm grateful that you had that experience. I know that sometimes we look at negative experiences and people are like, why did I have to go through that? But on the other side of it, like you really connected with who you are. And I don't think you will even allow yourself to go back down that path. I think if it came up, if you saw the first thing, like, so you said she did what? Okay. If somebody were to date you now, you'd probably be thinking all into that, like, okay, let's be a little slow with this. Let's really get to know who you are before I make any commitments here to see. And I think that right there is a strength in itself.
That's why I'm super grateful for the experience, for all that it taught me, and for where I got to go next. Because I was questioning, like, why? It's not the why, like, what is this teaching me? Like, what am I supposed to learn from this? Because getting stuck in the why did this happen to me is going to put you in a state of like victimhood for so long. It's like, yes, acknowledge the fact that that was truly messed up what happened to you, but let's not get stuck there. Think about what you can do moving forward. What is it that you need right now? Figure out your needs and find a way to provide that to yourself. And then once you get your needs met, then you can start thinking about the things that you want. Like, okay, I needed peace. I needed time. I need, stability. Let me go find the ways to gain it. Now that I have that, I can start thinking about those extracurricular things.
This makes me respect stable minds a little bit more. A lot more.
You.
Not even a little bit more. A lot more, because sometimes you hear people talking, they haven't actually had experiences. It's all book and research that they're talking, but they haven't had experiences. They haven't been to therapy. They haven't gone through things and overcame those things, and you've overcome what it is that you've actually gone through. So I see where there was the instability, and then you created stability out of it because of what you've gone through. That makes you a beautiful advocate.
Thank you.
For that, for sure.
And I feel like it's a lifelong journey. Like, we all still evolving, becoming. Like, I thought I was stable before that happened, and it knocked me off my rocker a little bit.
Right.
But thank God I got tools. I knew where to go to find that stability again. And now I need extra resources.
Right.
And I was able to find those. So I'm super grateful for life and God and my experiences. Like, I wouldn't take back anything that I've experienced in this life because it's part of my story.
There we go.
And had I not experienced it, I wouldn't know what to watch out for now.
Right.
And I'll probably have that experience later on in life. So I'm happy to go ahead and get it out the way.
Okay.
So,
Look, it's out the way
yeah.
now. We got the hard part.
Woo.
It's time to start really enjoying life.
Right. So I'm cool.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate this conversation from you. I really do. And I thank you for offering your time today. Thank you so much for the transparency, because it's not always easy for people to be honest and transparent the way that you do, but your testimony is powerful. And you should be grateful that you have that testimony.
For sure. Yes.
Well, thank you again. Thank you all for tuning
Thank
in
you.
to another episode of Talk to Me, Kitty. I will see you all on the next one. Bye, babies.